Welcome to Entry Point Faith. Join us each week to discover fresh meaning in the world and find faith your way. Now, here is Pastor Nancy Lafferty.
In his classic monologue on stuff, comedian George Carlin made fun of all of us for all the stuff that we accumulate throughout our lifetimes. He asserted that a house is just a pile of stuff with a cover on it. But Robert Frost wrote these words: "Home is the place where, when you have to go there, they have to take you in." Home has long been a popular theme in stories, in poems, in movies. It's even in the Bible. The Wizard of Oz gave us the phrase, "There's no place like home." And in fact, the entire movie centers around Dorothy's desire to get back home. And for Dorothy, of course, although that home was far from perfect, she had a powerful connection to her home. Even in the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings, home is incredibly important. 3 books, hundreds upon hundreds of pages, a lot of endings, and it all ends up being about returning home. We long for a house as a marker of who we are. Socially, a house is evidence of our success and achievement of the American dream. Houses substantiate our financial status, reputation, and our taste. It's a reflection of how we want others to see us. In our country, in the 20th century, the single-family dwelling became more affordable and more accessible for consumers, but unfortunately, the most accessible for white, upwardly mobile, middle-class residents, and not necessarily for other people. While we continue to hope and work toward racial equity in our culture, we have to recognize that people of color often have high-cost mortgages and are not as welcome still today in 2023 in certain neighborhoods. The classic play A Raisin in the Sun, written by Lorraine Hansberry, addresses that very topic. Our house sometimes seems to be human. It holds our baggage. It carries our pain. It shelters what is so dear to us. Houses are more than status symbols, though. Within our house, we hope to find a home. We also hope to find ourselves. We are often intrinsically, far more than we understand, linked to our house. Now, the houses we grew up in may not have been happy homes for many of us. So as adults, we get to choose differently. We can pick our own house and we can make it into a home that fits us. As we make a house or apartment our home, we make choices, and along with those choices, we choose people who are going to join us in that house. We shape our houses into homes that provide us with warmth, security, and comfort, all things that we need. Winston Churchill said these profound words: "We shape our homes, and then our homes shape us." The human animal is not so different from our ancestors. Just as animals have lairs and mark their territories, people have fundamental attachments to place and space. It's no surprise that we often say that people are going home to God when they pass away. We bring our fallen military heroes home to rest. And sometimes we drive all night just to get home, rather than stopping at a motel, which promises all the comforts of home. There's pretty strong evidence that the environment in which people live is closely linked to their well-being. Graham Rawls has written this important statement. We have a need for a place that is called home. Home provides security, control, belonging, identity, and privacy. But most of all, it's a place that provides us with a centering, a place from which we leave each morning and to which we return each evening. So now I'm going to suggest that this is why our lives since March 2020 have been so radically different. We didn't leave our homes each morning and return in the evening 3 years ago, did we? We stayed home. We worked from home. We did school at home. We did everything at home. And then we looked around and we saw stained carpets and windows that needed to be replaced, and we decided we needed to upgrade this home that we were now living in 24/7. We built new things in the house, and we made new places outside to do things, and we planted more flowers than normal, and we fell in love all over again with our safe havens, our homes. And many of us continue to work and hold school in our homes today, 3 years later. Truth be told, many of us continue to stay home more than ever. And we're very picky about where we go when we decide to get dressed and leave our homes. Our homes have truly become our castles and truly the most significant place in our lives. Now, interestingly, the Bible holds several references to the territory, to our land, and to our dwelling being important to us for security and for safety. Back in the 8th century BC, the prophet Micah declared, "Everyone will sit under their own vine and under their own fig tree, and no one will make them afraid." That is the basis for having our own safe place. And later on in the book of Isaiah, that prophet said, "I have a blueprint for what an ideal city should look like." And he used these words, "At last they will live in the houses they build and eat the fruit of the vineyard they plant. They will not build for another to inhabit. They will not plant for another to eat." In other words, when you build a house, you get to live in it. You're not building it for someone else. Now, when we live in a house for a long time, as many of us have done, we develop a different way of seeing the inside and the outside of the home. An outsider might walk along your yard and say, "Well, you know that cedar tree over there looks like it's been through some hard times. It looks like it even got hit by lightning." And we might simply reply, "Oh, that cedar tree? That's third base." Such memories become part of our lives and part of our life story, which is central to our sense of well-being and assessment of whether or not our life even has any meaning. As we age, our life stories take on added importance. The older we get, the more emotionally attached we become to our homes, to our houses, to our apartments, to where our dwelling is. Oh, we get so familiar with the physical surroundings in the neighborhood, we can't even imagine living anywhere else. So the transition sometimes to downsizing to a smaller house is a highly emotional decision because that house holds so many memories and so much of who we are. Ultimately, our homes enhance our sense of identity. Our emotional well-being is improved by our growing attachment to our home. And it can help to compensate for other losses that we will inevitably face in our lives. Professor Habib Chowdhury has written these words: home becomes an emotional refuge, a place where we still have control. And again, I will suggest that we found a renewed attachment to our homes, our apartments, our houses post-pandemic because it was the one place we still had some control. While outside, it was clearly out of control. Our living spaces became our safety. And here's the takeaway. We're still, even after years of living in that house, we are always building our home. An elderly carpenter was ready to retire. He told his employer of his plans to leave the house building industry. And he said, I just want to live a more leisurely life. I'm ready to stop. I want to enjoy my family, my wife, and we can get along. I'll miss the paycheck, but we can get along just fine. Now, the contractor was really sorry to see his good worker go. And he said, it's okay, I'm going to ask you one more time. Would you please build me just one more house as a personal favor before you quit? The carpenter said yes, but over time it was easy to see that his heart was not in his work. He resorted to shoddy workmanship and he used inferior materials. It was a very unfortunate way to end a dedicated career. When the carpenter finished his work, his employer came to inspect the house. And then the employer handed the front door key to the carpenter and said, this is your house, my gift to you. Our house is indeed important to us. We are always building our house. It becomes a reflection of us. It represents our character, our taste, and certainly our values. Our living space is our sanctuary. It is a gathering place sometimes, and it is always a shelter. Amen.
Thanks for listening in on this week's discussion on Entry Point Faith. You can join the Entry Point Faith community in person every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. at Conner Prairie in Fishers, Indiana. For more information and a transcript of Nancy's messages, visit entrypointonline.org. Entry Point Faith is brought to you in partnership with mypodcast.media.